privilege, power, and wealth. David Greer's life was built on indulgence and pleasure. But what happens when the walls come crashing down? Will he have the strength to face the consequences? This is the story of a man who thought he was untouchable until reality hit hard.
David Greer, a privileged young man, had everything handed to him on a silver platter. Growing up in the affluent city of Portsville, his mother, Patricia Greer, a successful businesswoman, spoiled him endlessly. She had raised David on her own after his father passed away, and from the moment he was born, Patricia made sure her son never wanted for anything. David grew up in a luxurious mansion filled with expensive artwork, lavish furniture, and the finest education money could buy. Yet, despite all this, Patricia failed to teach her son the most valuable lessons: responsibility and respect. David's childhood was marked by his mother's unconditional indulgence. Whenever he misbehaved, Patricia brushed it off, repeating, "My son is perfect." As a result, David grew into a young man who believed he could get away with anything. By the time he graduated from university, his grades were mediocre, but thanks to his mother's generous donations, he still managed to walk away with a degree. When David was required to complete a teaching placement for his final year of studies, Patricia arranged for him to teach at a prestigious all-girls school, Riverside Academy, located far from the comforts of home. David was initially reluctant to leave his pampered life in Portsville, but Patricia convinced him that it would be a new adventure. He packed his designer clothes and gadgets, ready to face what he believed would be an easy year. Upon arriving at Riverside Academy, David quickly realised that his good looks and charming personality gave him significant influence over his students. He became particularly interested in three of the most popular girls at the school: Emma, Claire, and Sofia. They were intelligent and beautiful, and David soon found himself paying them special attention. As the days passed, his behaviour became increasingly inappropriate. He began holding private tutoring sessions for the girls, where he flirted with them and crossed boundaries that should never be crossed. David enjoyed the power he had over them, convincing himself that he was simply helping them with their studies. However, rumours started to spread around the school about his relationships with the students. One day, during a biology class, Emma, Claire, and Sofia suddenly felt ill and had to leave. The school nurse quickly realised something was wrong and arranged for the girls to be tested. The results shocked the school. All three girls were pregnant, and the finger of blame pointed squarely at David. The scandal erupted, and the school's principal, Mr. Benson, called David into his office. With a mix of disappointment and anger, Mr. Benson demanded an explanation. David, for the first time in his life, felt trapped. His charm and excuses couldn't save him, and the weight of his actions hit him hard. Mr. Benson immediately contacted the education board, and David's teaching career was terminated on the spot. Legal consequences loomed, but David's first instinct was to call his mother for help. "Mum, I'm in trouble. Big trouble," David confessed, his voice trembling as he explained the situation. For the first time, Patricia didn't offer immediate comfort. Her usual confidence was gone. After a long silence, she told him to come home immediately, but David could hear the coldness in her voice. When David arrived back in Portsville, he was shocked to find his mother in a dishevelled state, far from the polished woman he was used to seeing. She explained that she had lost their entire fortune in a series of bad investments. Their businesses, properties, and even their family home were gone. Patricia, usually the fixer of all problems, was now powerless. The empire she had built had crumbled, and David's scandal was only making things worse. The school and the families of the girls had decided to press charges, and Patricia had no money or influence left to help her son. "There's nothing left to fix, David," Patricia said, her voice filled with defeat. You have to face the consequences of your actions. The knock on the door came sooner than expected. 2 police officers stood there, ready to arrest David for misconduct. As he was handcuffed and led away, reality set in for both him and his mother. This time, there was no escape. David's trial was swift. He pleaded guilty to all charges and was sentenced to several years in prison with no chance of working in education again. Patricia, watching from the gallery, realised that her years of shielding him from responsibility had contributed to this moment. The once proud mother, who had given her son everything except discipline and guidance, was left broken, reflecting on her failures. While in prison, David struggled to come to terms with his new reality. His privileged life was over, and he had to learn to survive in an environment where his charm and family name held no value. His cellmate, an older man named Carl, offered him some hard truths. "You were never above the law, kid. Now's your chance to learn from it," Carl told him one day. Meanwhile, Patricia moved into a modest apartment and started a small business to make ends meet. The fall from grace was steep, but it was also a time for her to rebuild her life, much like David was forced to rebuild his from within the prison walls. Months later, Patricia visited David in prison. The years had aged her, but there was a new strength in her eyes. They spoke honestly for the first time in years. David, filled with regret, apologised for his actions, while Patricia admitted her own faults in his upbringing. "It's not too late for us to learn from our mistakes," she said. As David faced the rest of his prison sentence, he knew the road ahead would be difficult. But for the first time in his life, he understood that the consequences of his actions were his to bear. Together, he and his mother began a journey of redemption, each determined to build a better future, one step at a time. Moral of the story: no matter how much you are given in life, without responsibility and guidance, mistakes can lead to irreversible consequences. Every action has its price, and eventually, we all must face the repercussions of our choices. Thank you for joining Jum's journey and experiencing the power of acceptance and resilience with us. If you found her story inspiring, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for more captivating tales ahead. Until next time, farewell.